We're trying to help solve affordable housing because I truly believe this model can solve affordable housing. And that's not just me saying that. I want to be positioned to solve affordable housing. And in order to do that, I want you to, this might be what you can afford. Yeah. It's a room. It's not short term. We're over 18 months on average tenancy. So it's not like they're staying for 2 weeks and bouncing. I think part of that is because they feel like this is home. This can be home. That's the feel we're going for. When I walk into a house, every bit of space I see as an additional bedroom, right? The one thing we're really passionate about is creating community in the home. And so we always keep one space for a common area.
We are creating so much more, than just renting the room.
So if you do it right and you have a really, really, really great product, then it can work.
This is the Better Life Podcast with Brandon Turner.
And Cameron Cathcart.
Cam, I am pumped about today's episode.
Dude, it was awesome.
Yeah, we just got done recording it, and this is a strategy that anybody, even if you're brand new with almost no money, could use to build financial freedom in a few short years. I really believe that. And you know why I believe that, Cam?
Why do you believe it?
Because I started with this strategy. My very first property was a apartment that I rented out the bedrooms, and then later I bought a house and I rented out the bedrooms there. It got me started. It built me equity, got me in the game. And our guests today, Sam and Rachel, have scaled it, and they're going to share exactly how they do that.
Yeah, I think it's incredible that they can cash flow $1,000 a house, not doing a short-term rental.
Yeah. That's long-term rental, $1,000 a month, minimum. That's like their minimum. And it doesn't take, how many of those, think of those listening, how many of $1,000 a month properties would you need to be able to quit your job? It's probably not a lot.
7, 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to get you that right now. We're excited for you to listen to Sam and Rachel Wegert. This episode is brought to you by our friends at Turbo Tenant and Ballpoint Marketing. These two companies are big supporters of the show, and they know how to work with real estate investors and help real estate investors grow their businesses. So be sure to stay tuned to hear how you can get discounts and free stuff from them both. And as you probably know, all the profits from this show go to charities of the guest choosing. So when you listen to the sponsors on the show and you work with these hand-chosen by me sponsors, you're actually doing good for the world. Now let's get to the show. Sam and Rachel. Welcome to the podcast. So good to have you guys here.
We're so excited, man.
This is going to be good.
We're nervous. We're excited.
Okay.
We're grateful to be here.
Big deal to be here.
You've done so many podcasts together, right? That's
right.
Okay.
So
We're
much.
pros at this. We're like, what percentage are you going to talk?
Yeah,
This is me. But
We should try and get them into a fight
We
today.
should. That's going to be the goal. Yeah.
What things can we say?
We won't
Look,
need
first
much
question
Honestly,
is,
that won't be that hard.
what's the thing that he irritates you the most about?
Next question, please.
Does he snore?
All right. So I know you. So I've known you, Sam, for a long time. We've been a part of different groups. We've hung out a number of times. You have only known a much less, Rachel, but I know you as real estate investors, first of all. I know, Sam, you're a martial art guy. You fifth degree black belt, right?
Yeah.
That's just wild. Degree. Yeah, I want to get into that a little bit. Yeah. I know you're like the co-living people or rent by the room people or guy. I mean, like you have that brand nailed. I love that. And I know you're the third and fourth best Latin dancers in this room.
Yes. So, third and fourth. I would be fourth on that for sure.
Only because I taught.
Oh, in this room.
Wait till Brandon and I.
Yeah, wait till you see us going. And I know that you're good at the cry. I mean, the one time I beat you up pretty bad that one time.
That's right.
I mean,
Oh,
we're going to say that.
Arm wrestling.
But take us back before all of that.
Yeah.
Who were Sam and Rachel?
Yeah.
Who were you before?
I'll take it and then I'll turn it over to Rachel. But yeah, man, it's been a crazy journey to this point here. And I'd say the journey was, I was raised on a small farm in Virginia. And I had this really cool experience of being homeschooled K through 12. This was like before homeschooling was really popular. It was when my parents had to get a lawyer to actually tell the town that I could homeschool because they were like, you were kids and they should be in school. And my parents also decided to have a big family. So I'm one of 8 kids.
Wow, yeah.
And that was like a really unique experience that a lot of my friends did not have growing up. And so it was maybe a little sheltered, a little isolated, but it really gave me a lot of focus growing up.
Before we get on to the rest of the stuff, what's your view on homeschooling today?
I love homeschooling. Yeah.
Okay.
It allows you to do so much stuff younger. Like I have a brother who works for Microsoft. He started working for them when he was 18 years old. Because he was, it's kind of like the Montessori approach where you just get to pursue whatever you want to at a younger age. It's like, I don't know, there's this book called, have you heard of the book Soar With Your Strengths?
No.
It's basically this allegory of like this, like, I think it's like a bear and a duck and a deer, like all go to school. And they basically make them do what they're bad at. They put them in remedial that thing. So like the bear was terrible at like swimming. So like, well, you don't need to like climb trees because you're already good at that. you need to do remedial swimming, right? And it was like, he was like so disheartened and depressed. And I feel like that's what happens a lot of times. But in homeschool,
so much what happens.
You get to pursue that thing that you're good at.
Yeah.
So that was what we got to do.
Yeah,
and so,
focus on your strengths.
Yeah. So at 15 years old, my parents loaned me 15 grand. It's kind of a little story to get to that point, but basically I was in martial arts. My mom wanted me to have more discipline, more focus, because I was just like, had a ton of energy and was always breaking stuff. What was that?
High energy.
I was high energy. And my martial arts instructor at the time was burnt out from running this little martial arts school. It's like, we're in a town of 2,000 people. It's got like 100 students. And he was like, he wanted to go fish bass, like professionally bass fish. And he's like, Sam, I think you could run the school. And I was 15 at the time. He'd been training me for maybe a year and a half, 2 years at that time. So he took my parents out to dinner and he convinced my parents to sell me this martial arts school at 15. They gave me 15 grand at 15 years old. So shout out to my mom and dad who are listening to this because they believed in me at a 15-year-old. And they were not wealthy. My parents weren't wealthy, but they came up with 15 grand. And that was my foray into the entrepreneurial world of I can do this. I can be somebody. And that was how I got my start, man. That was the martial arts journey.
Very cool. But, and you just kept continuing that, obviously, and got pretty good at it. I mean, not good enough to beat me, but
right. We haven't rolled yet, have we? Everybody says I should roll with Brandon.
I'm gonna just keep telling that story though, and people are gonna think that I just clearly defeated you, even though it's never happened. But if you tell a story enough, people believe it.
That's right.
All right,
telephone tag.
Rachel, what about you? Tell us your background a little bit.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about how we met and then go from there? Or?
What's your childhood? Where were you at?
Childhood. Wow.
We'll go way back.
Okay,
how much time do we have? Born in New Jersey. Okay. I actually shared my testimony, and I know you're a man of faith. Yeah. And so I was born out of wedlock, and I was given up for adoption, but I was third attempt abortion.
Wow.
So I survived. So I came into this world kicking and screaming, and
she was meant to be here.
Yeah. Wow.
I really wanted to. My spirit wanted to be here. So my biological parents had to. The baby was removed, and so they had to give up the baby, and I was adopted into a Christian home. So I was born and raised in New Jersey, and then I came down south. I lived with an older sister. She got remarried, and I came down south to Tennessee. My background is exercise science and kinesiology, so I taught personal training, boot camp, spin, fitness, all the things fitness. Yeah. And wellness, and moved to Asheville, North Carolina, and started studying yoga and essential oils and got into the alternative route. Before I met Sam, my mom was actually a real estate agent. Really? She did a couple flips. She wasn't very successful with them, but I never saw this for our future. But then I met Sam. And you want to?
The rest is history.
Yeah, the rest is history.
And he was doing this thing called CoLiving. It was actually room hacking because he was living.
House hacking.
Because he was living in the house when I first met him, and driving an Acura.
She hated my beat up Acura.
I'm like, well, because
you can get us into a fight if you want to. Right now.
I had an Acura as well, and all our cars up to this point were fully paid for, and I love my Acura. But he got not fender bender when you ran into the side. Yeah, T-bone. Thank you. And the door was a different color than the rest of the car, and so things were like there was like
they totaled my car, gave me thousands of dollars for it, and I kept driving it. I bought it back from them. Hundreds of dollars. It was a great deal. But it was brown. It was a different color.
So we had met at a wedding, and I had traveled after college. I had gotten out, and I finished school a little late because I didn't want to get into debt. And I was paying my way through schooling, and I actually ended up doing a Bible degree.
Okay,
was my
cool.
Where'd you go?
So Montreat in Black Mountain. Yeah, it's a private Presbyterian university. And
did you have a Bible degree?
I do.
Yeah, me too.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's 3 out of 4.
Minor.
My dad was a pastor.
Yeah,
mine's a minor.
Mine's a minor.
I went to Liberty University for a little bit.
Okay, that counts. It kind of counts.
Yeah.
Okay, so you met at a wedding.
So we met at a wedding. I did some traveling. I got invited to this wedding. Didn't know the couple was Latin dancers, so they both were salsa dancers.
The couple that was getting married. They invited all their Latin dancing friends.
Okay, yeah.
And we were both there with dates. I was there with a date. She was there with a date. We saw each other across the room, but she's an amazing dancer. And I was like, okay, I got to dance with this girl. Because it's very, in Latin dancing world, it's very social dance. You're just like, hey, you want to dance? You want to dance? You want to dance? And we had this amazing dance. And there was this one move that I did where I just like picked her off her feet.
Literally.
Which is like you have to trust your partner a lot to be able to have them pick you off your feet and actually get a lift. And we did. We just met. And it was just this really cool chemistry that we had.
So don't let our wives become Latin dancers.
Yeah, don't let our wives learn how to dance.
How long have you guys been married now?
6 years this September.
6 years?
Very cool. So let's go back then to Sam. How did you discover co-living, like in house hacking? Where'd that come from?
Yeah, well, I always tell people that the origins of house hacking or co-living were living with 8 siblings and 2 parents in a 1,900 square foot house. So like that's a lot of house hacking. That's really what that is. But no, I mean, really, I built this chain of martial arts schools. I went from one school, and then I'm just a growth oriented person. So I was like, let me go start a second one, and a third one, and a fourth one, a fifth one, a sixth one. And we've just recently exited the martial arts business. But I really just bought a piece of real estate because it was like the right thing to do. And it was a 3-bedroom, 3-bath. It was in Charlottesville, Virginia, right outside of the University of Virginia, UVA. And I rented one room, and it was like every room had a bathroom, had a little built-in desk. It was just like built for college students. And I didn't think anything of it. I just was like, oh, this is cool. And I'm single at the time, so I just rented out the other 2 rooms. So making a little bit of money. That's the house hacking thing, right? And I differentiate house hacking when you live there. Co-living is like when it's a pure investment. You're outside of that. It's kind of the differentiation in the terms that I would use. And didn't think anything of it. Moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, because that was where my business took me. That was where I bought 2 martial arts schools there at the time. And I bought this house again, more because it was like the right thing to do. And I didn't want money going out in rent that was just like disappearing, right? And I remember walking in the first night that I was there. And I remember 2 things. One, the heat was broken. It was like 58 degrees in my house. It was like the first night I owned it. And the second, I was like, it's just too quiet. Like I'm used to being raised with 8 kids. I was like, I have to rent rooms solely for the reason of like, I just need connection and community around. So I rented 2 rooms. It was a 3-bedroom house. I rented 2 rooms. And then I put up this wall because the living room was huge. And I added a stand-up shower to the half bath that was downstairs. So I took a 3, 2.5 and made it a 4-3.
Okay, yeah.
And I rented out 4 bedrooms. And I really, again, didn't think anything of it. It wasn't a money-making play. One of my, housemates was from Mexico. We got along super great. It was just fun.
Didn't have any leases.
Didn't have any leases. Had no systems in place, nothing. And it was just like, you can pay the rent, right? Let's go. Okay, you got a room. Venmo me tonight. And I had this friend. His name was Jason. He was a president or a vice president at a big bank called SunTrust in Charlotte. And he was walking one day with me, and he goes, "Hey, how much are you renting that house for?" Because he's like, "I know you're doing the room rental thing." And I was like, "Well, I guess if you count me as a renter, it'd be like $2,850." And he goes, "That house would only rent for like $1,300 on the open market. It wasn't in the best neighborhood in Charlotte. And this was, 10, 12 years ago." And for whatever reason, like he was a numbers guy. That's when it kind of clicked. And I thought, I'm doubling the rent and I only got 4 roommates. Yeah. I'm used to living with a lot more people. So long story short, and we can dive into this now if you want to or later, but like I basically went on this journey of like, well, if it works with 4, could I do it with 5?
Yeah.
And then I was like, I had parking problems and had to figure out like how to have parking plans. And I was like, well, it's working with 5. And so I'd, 1 year later, I'd go buy another house, primary residence loan, and be like, could I do it with 6? And could it work with 7? Could it work with 8? And, until we were having bigger houses and we had fixed a lot of the systems and things that needed to be in place. And people think we're crazy to have 7, 8, 9, sometimes even 10 people share a house. And I'm always like, that's just how I raised. That seems normal to me.
Yeah.
I am interested, so if 9, 10 people are sharing a house, how do you manage all of the different personalities in that house? Is that tough?
Yeah, it can be. I'd say that's the number one nuance to
cultivate.
Yeah.
Number one kickback.
So we have a solid set of house rules. We can go over what some of those are, but like we have a super solid set of house rules, and then we have to have the we have to have the ability to evict or kick them out for any breakage of the house rules.
Gotcha.
So we kind of reserve this right to let them basically say, hey, you're not a good fit for the community. We're moving you out. Here's a 30-day notice to move. And so a lot of times we'll just pick like, hey, if there's a conflict, sometimes we have to pick a side. Is basically what it boils down to. We will offer free transfers too, and we have enough rooms in the home, or if something's just not working out, we'll, as part of their membership with us, they'll get 1 free transfer to another house. So sometimes that really helps. And then what we just recently did is we had someone that was kind of like a conflict resolution expert come in, and they designed this form. So if they do have a tenant dispute, they scan this QR code on the refrigerator, and they basically takes them through these questions, and it's just long enough. Whereas, like, if it's not a real issue, they won't get to the end of it. But it's also short enough where if it's a real issue, they will get to the end of it, and it'll pop up on our Google form. And it basically is basic conflict resolution questions. And it's like, did you talk to them? Like some of it's basic, like, what did they say in response? And allows us to kind of step in and support if we need to. So it's nuanced for sure. I'd say that's maybe one of the bigger nuances. I'd say the other thing that really helps with this, though, is like you have to set expectations from the beginning.
Yeah.
And so what we found is when we were having a lot of conflicts in the house, we weren't basically saying like, this is who we want, this is who we don't want, and here's what we expect as being a part of the community. And it really is. I mean, we're trying to we're trying to help solve affordable housing because I truly believe this model can solve affordable housing. And that's not just me saying that. That's U.S. Department for Housing and Urban Development just came out. And basically, I don't know if you know this, you can use housing choice vouchers now, like Section 8 vouchers, 4 rooms, not just for the whole place. And so they sent out a notice. Rent. Yeah. So yeah, you can get guaranteed rent from the government renting your house out by the room. Like if you want to use their little formula on how much you should charge for the room, which you probably don't, because it's like this really complicated, crazy formula, but which we don't accept housing choice vouchers now, but you could, right? And it's really cool. But basically, they also came out and said like shared housing is a viable alternative to solve affordable housing in America. Like this thing can go that. There's a ton of traction for this. I know we're kind of a little bit of a tangent, but state of Washington just passed a bill in the state legislature, 76-0, has to be signed by the governor, basically completely legalizing co-living in the entire state. Washington's doing the same thing. The 5 boroughs of New York City just launched something called the City of Yes Initiative, which is all about converting office spaces specifically to co-living spaces with shared kitchens, shared living rooms. So we're seeing a tremendous amount of traction. And when my episode first came out on Bigger Pockets, I had this guy from Germany call me, and he was like, Sam, you're talking about this concept. He laughed at me initially. He was just like, you think this is so new? He's like,
we've been doing that.
We're doing it for
He's like, the room is the new apartment in Europe. This is how we all live. We have whole building codes that specifically regulate co-living. He's like, I'm building these from the ground up. Yeah. He's like, this isn't new. You guys are just like a little behind
Well, Americans are kind of like we value our independence. And it's like, I'm not going to live with other people is like kind of the thought. So that leads into the question is, who's renting these things? I mean, like a lot of people listening to this right now are probably going, well, I wouldn't want to rent that. I have a family. I have kids. Like, there's no way I would live in a room, so who's renting it? Just college kids or what?
It's single room occupancy. So it is one person per room. So if it's like a couple, they got to rent 2 rooms.
Oh, really?
That's
Okay.
key. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we all know the stats. Like people are getting married later. People are having kids later. Those are just, that's a lot of statistics of what's happening in America. But who's renting them is really anybody who's making between $20,000 and $60,000 per year. And they're single, or we're starting to see an older population too that's on a fixed income. Maybe they're divorced or their spouse passed away. They actually would prefer in some cases to live with other people. So yeah, I mean, just go through your life.
Your waitresses, your servers. We've met people. We're investing also outside of Charlotte now, South Carolina, and then there's a town called Asheville, Black Mountain, and we've talked to some of the servers, and they drive, hour just to get into the city because they can't afford it.
So expensive.
There's either not anything or it's so expensive. So.
Yeah. That's a rural town. It's not even like a
rural town.
So like when you're renting to these people, what is your criteria? Because it seems like, somebody making $20,000 to $60,000, they might have bad credit. They might have so what's your criteria to get good renters that aren't going to destroy your house and fight with the other housemates?
Yeah, it's a good question. We do income verification, so it is still 3 times the monthly rent. But if a room is $800, you need to make $2,400 a month.
Yeah.
So you have a lot easier qualification. And as a little bit of an aside, that's what's so cool about co-living is you are literally introducing price points into the market that did not exist earlier. Yeah. Because of the cheapest thing in a town, like the cheapest thing in Charlotte is studio apartment.
Yep.
That's the cheapest thing. That's $1,400, $1,500, or 12, plus utilities, right? Yep. You're introducing a $750 price point.
Yeah.
Didn't exist. It's crazy, right? So that's what's really cool about it. So it gets us so excited about it. But so income verification, we will do a full background check. If there's any criminal history or previous eviction, we still will pass. Usually is one of our things. And then
pass on them, not allow.
Yeah. Oh, okay, gotcha. Not pass them through.
Right.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
Just for like.
Thanks for that clarification.
I got you.
I put them in, and then that's how it goes.
There's gonna be blast.
Put cameras in, we try to sell it Netflix. No.
That's cool.
And then there was a third thing we were saying. We will do a credit check.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. If they have any, if it's school debt or medical debt, my property manager will usually look over it and we'll give them some grace for that type of stuff. But if it's other things or they owe a landlord or something, then we're still looking at credit. Still looking at credit. Yeah.
I want to ask about how long it took you to get from starting there to making financial freedom money, whatever, you don't have to live. Yeah. But before we get there, I do want to hit today's show sponsor. So one thing on the show we do is we dedicate 100% of all ad revenue toward a charity of the guest's choosing. So where are we throwing the money from this week's episode?
Tell them, baby.
Ooh.
So we talked with, was it Bruce Lee?
Bruce Lee.
Bruce Lee. I don't know why I made that connection last night, but
Bruce.
Yeah.
Bruce.
Yeah.
Okay.
We are
Bruce.
big fans of his brother is one of the student campuses there outside of Charlotte.
Campus
pastor.
Church.
Oh.
Yeah. So Elevation Church. It's been a big part of our journey and our story, actually,
No way.
in our faith. We've love the message of Pastor Stephen and Holly. So
Love it.
that will be our charity of choice.
That's awesome. Do you guys know Terry? Bruce's
not.
brother. Oh, you don't know Terry?
No, not
Terry's
yet,
great.
but
Yeah,
we're
you
gonna.
gotta be-
We will. We'll look him up.
Yeah.
Terry's
Yeah.
awesome.
Very cool, guys. Well, yeah,
Thank you,
I
yes.
love Stephen Furtick. That guy can speak better than almost any human
Oh my
alive.
God.
Yeah, he's
His eyes
born
too.
Yeah.
You can just throw out a word and he can
Yeah.
2 hours.
phenomenal.
sermon.
Yeah. If you're listening to this podcast and you've never listened to Stephen Furtick talk or preach or whatever you want to call it, like it's unbelievably good. He's so talented. Like it's unreal. So check it out. But that leads us to this week's show sponsor. All right, so I looked down at my phone and I see this text. You need to call me. Your house is on fire. And I sat there and I'm looking at the screen and I'm wondering, is this some kind of a joke? The guy who sent it was a tenant I had been trying to evict for months and he hadn't paid him forever. He had trashed the house. I mean, it was disgusting. And the guy himself was, pretty darn unstable. Now, of course, I call him after that text and it goes to voicemail. Great. Now, a few minutes later, I get a call from the fire department. Yep, my first ever rental house was burning down. So how did I get myself in that situation? Well, I didn't screen that tenant. I put in someone I thought would be good, and he was until he wasn't. Now, this was over a decade ago, and since then, I've learned how to properly vet a tenant, and that's through Turbo Tenant, which makes screening for both background and credit really, really easy. But it gets even better. Turbo Tenant also helps you market your rentals to like dozens of the largest sites, including apartments.com and Redfin. You can create custom leases that cover all your rental laws, and you can even use Turbo Tenant for your automatic rent payments. All of this for less than the cost of your Netflix subscription. Yeah, I know, crazy. Save time, save money, and save your sanity by using Turbo Tenant. And because you're so darn cute, you can use the code Brandon10 to save 10%. So check it out at turbotenant.com/betterlife. Hey, so many of you have heard me tell that story about how I bought my daughter Rosie a fourplex, like a rental property, the week she was born, and how we put it on an 18-year, mortgage payoff plan so it'll be paid off when she graduates from high school. So essentially, my tenants are paying for Rosie's entire college. Now that's pretty awesome, right? Not to mention, it's also making almost like $1,000 a month in cash flow. That's double awesome. But I don't think I've ever shared really exactly how I found that deal. So here it goes. I found it through direct mail marketing. And here's how. I simply built a high quality lead list of a lot of names and addresses of potential sellers, and I sent out a whole bunch of mail to every person on that list. And then I talked on the phone to a ton of people, and then I finally got one person that was interested enough to sell me the property, and I got a deal at a great price. So building that giant lead engine like that, I mean, it works, but it takes a ton of time, knowledge, and effort, which can really slow down an investor's growth, which is why I reached out to my friend Ryan with Ballpoint Marketing. I asked him to sponsor this show because they're the best at doing everything that I just talked about. Like, they're literally going to help you build your entire lead engine. You're gonna get a one-on-one call where they're gonna help you figure out what you want and then build your lead list for you. Their robots are going to handwrite the postcards with a real pen, which is super cool. They're gonna send them out, and they'll even answer the phone calls for you. Plus, they'll help you track it all inside of a CRM that they create for you. I know, it's crazy, crazy awesome. And it's going to help you land way more deals consistently. And because you're awesome and because you listen to this show, you're going to get a discount when you tell them that I sent you, or just use code Brandon when checking out with them. I love Ballpoint Marketing and officially recommend them to all my friends and masterminds. So if you're ready to kick your deal flow up a notch, getting more quality leads without pulling your hair out, just go to ballpointmarketing.com/betterlife, or just shoot me a DM on Instagram with the word ballpoint, like one word, ballpoint, and I'll hook you up with them directly. Yeah, how do you finance a co-living situation? I mean, will a normal bank lend on it?
Yeah, it's the short answer is it's developing.
Okay.
Obviously, if you can live in it,
Yeah.
then you can get a 3.5 down FHA, or you can get 5% down primary residence. Like, that's perfect.
Yeah,
That's,
and they don't
that's-
care
that's
if you
where
rent
something
out
starts.
roommates.
It's fine.
Yeah,
As long
that's
as you're
totally
living
fine.
it, you should
Yep.
live in it for a year. That's legally what you have to do. Like, living it for a year, get another year. That's why I got my first 5 homes.
Do you know, yesterday I had a guy asked me, it seems like such a normal question that I would like, seems like such an obvious answer, but I realize not everyone knows this. Is like, he goes, yeah, I've had a house now, I've lived here for 5 years, and we want to go and travel the country and move. But, we bought the house as an owner-occupied FHA loan, so we can't leave. And I was like, oh, no, you're not trapped. Like, you can leave. Like, he had no idea that you could leave and not have to refinance the loan. So, yeah, if you have an FHA loan, you're supposed to stay for a year. You're intending to stay for a year. You can leave after.
Yeah, and I
He was so happy.
Yeah, I recently learned too. Like, after you can have 10 conventional investment loans,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then your wife can have 10.
And then she can have 10, and you can always get another primary.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I thought it was like 10.
either.
It was 10. So after 10,
Yeah, I
it's
guess,
like,
yeah.
primaries. That's 11. 12, 13.
Yeah,
So
interesting,
if I
yeah.
move every year, I
you
can still
can
get
keep
all-
adding
I
them up.
didn't know.
Yeah.
I
That's
thought you
good
were
to know.
maxed out
Yeah.
at 10
As long
and
as it's a
10.
primary, you
If
can
it's
get
a
more.
primary, you can always get on the primary. Yeah.
That's awesome. Good to know that.
So we move a lot.
Yeah, exactly. That's cool. So you can get typically a conventional loan, but
So
depends a little
A
bit.
conventional loan, obviously, if it's based on your income.
Yeah.
If the loan is based on your income, then you're fine.
Sure.
You know, a lot of what people are doing now is debt service type loans
Yep.
still, and trying to do it that. They're still so the problem with that is that sometimes when they go to do the rent appraisal on the loan,
They're going to do a normal rental.
they're going to do a normal rent appraisal,
Yeah, that
right? And
makes
so it may or may not debt service just like any other single family home would. You have some of those companies out there that are doing. I don't know if your company does this, but like the short term, will underwrite based on short term rentals.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It-
yeah, I
short-term
think we do a
rental
little
income.
bit of that. Yeah.
Like Air DNA.
Yep,
So
yep.
sometimes that'll pass the debt service thing.
Yeah.
And the part that's developing with the co-living loans, and I think we'll see more of those. There's even a no DSCR loan.
Yeah.
You're going to pay higher on rates, but there's you can get the loan. It's just a matter of what you want to pay in terms of the rate, right? And what's great about co-living is we're seeing people get these no DSCR loans and still cash flowing,
Yeah,
right? Which
right.
is pretty cool if you run the co-living model correctly. The part that's developing that I'm really excited about is we just had one of our local bankers come to us and say, hey, if you have a year's worth of history on that house and it's been rented by the room for at least 12 months, then we will underwrite it. He's like, you got to pay the $2,000 for a commercial appraisal, but we will underwrite it like we would a multifamily building,
Yeah.
right? So based on NOI, not just a comp-based appraisal. And that's on a single family home. So that could take, we have not, for full transparency, I have not closed one of those loans yet with him, but he did say that they would do that. I do have one buddy in St. Pete that just closed one. It was kind of a local lender. They had some deposits with that local lender. They gave, I think, 65 or 70 loan to value, but it was completely based on a commercial appraisal.
Yeah.
And it appraised for like 1.2 million, and they had bought it for like 450,000 and put some money. Like it was a huge spread on what it normally would have appraised for just based on a comp appraisal.
Yeah.
So I think we'll start to see some of these lenders come out with, hey, if you can show us the income on the property, we can underwrite it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, I literally just wrote down I wrote ref idea, co-living loan. I'm like,
Please.
yeah, why don't we just pioneer that? Like, I
I
mean,
love that.
where there's opportunity, like banks are going to step in and figure out a
Yeah,
way. If they're like,
that's right.
they figured out this way. So
That's
it's coming more and more. So
Yeah. That's
very cool.
Yeah, I'll follow up with you on that.
Yeah. We'll talk more about, maybe we'll build that thing together, man. It could be really, really powerful.
But it's like Airbnb.
yeah.
I mean, I think Airbnb kind of came out and there
Yep.
wasn't a product. Now there's a product. There are still people doing, debt service based on the AirDNA data. So it will come.
That makes sense.
Where are you guys looking to buy these houses? Do you guys have a certain avatar for that? Like I look at my area and I wouldn't know even where to begin. Like where are you guys looking at?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much anywhere that housing is an issue.
So
So like America. Every major market. I pretty much either know of someone doing co-living or we have a student in our community doing co-living, and almost every major market, right? But I mean, our top markets right now would be like Houston, Austin, Dallas, Phoenix, Denver, Charlotte, Jacksonville,
Orlando.
Really?
Orlando. Yeah.
Are you guys looking to be close to hospitals for nurses or schools for college students or?
Yeah, you're looking like you need to be within like a normal commute distance to employers.
30 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's not this super strategic like any.
Next door to a hospital kind of
Yeah.
thing. It could just be a community.
No, very few of our people that live in our homes, of the approximately 200 doors that we own, of the 400 doors that we manage,
Dude, wow.
I think we have probably maybe like 4 or 5 nursing professionals and maybe 2 college students. Like it's not a lot.
wow.
That's not the niche. The
That's not
niche,
our
the niche is someone's making between 20 and 60,000. I mean, you can find them if you just go through like who you impact or who you connect with on a daily basis. Like you go to Walmart, you go to the grocery store, like everybody that serves you, the people that put your baggage on the airplane for you, like they're not, in the big cities, they are not making enough after tax income to pay for a studio apartment plus utilities. They just aren't.
Do you find it working better in places like Hawaii, California, where it's really expensive? I mean, the average studio apartment here is $2,500 a month.
In Maui?
In Maui,
Wow.
yeah. So it's like, it's
That's
expensive for a studio apartment.
Yeah.
Maybe you can get as
crazy.
low as like $1,800 if you're willing to go, a little bit rougher.
Right,
But
right,
I mean,
right.
things are expensive. I have a 1-bedroom Ohana, like at my property. I rent it for $3,000 a month.
Oh my
for
gosh.
1 bedroom, right? So there's a yet if you're working at Starbucks, you're still making $12 an hour.
Right.
You're not making $40 an hour at Starbucks. So the wages are just like the rest of America, but prices are. California, a lot of areas similar.
Yeah.
So is that an ideal situation, or because prices are $1 million here, it's hard to
Yeah.
make that numbers work? Like, how do you look at that?
Yeah, obviously it's just a numbers game and becomes like just what's the, running the pro forma on the property to see what the minimum you need for cash flow is, right? We've got a guy in LA. Yeah, Dante, shout out to Dante, is crushing it in LA. And he's just taking a lot and he's maximizing every space. I mean, putting an ADU and then he's co-living the ADU and then he's then he's turning the garages into like 2 rooms and then co-living that. And so he's really maximizing the space.
His properties still cash flow a couple grand each, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
But someone in your community, actually, I'll give Sarah a shout out. She's in the Better Life Tribe and she is in my community as well. And she just bought a house in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
I have a house in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
No kidding.
That's random.
Yeah. She bought a mansion in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. And she's going to turn it into so it's not huge
Small
town,
little community, yeah.
But it's like housing is crazy. Like for people that work there, it's like hard to find a place to live.
Yeah, because it's a tourist town and so prices just Justin Bieber owns a house there, Kardashians own houses there. Yeah.
It's the same with Asheville. So a lot of times, it's the same in these areas where housing's an issue. Anyway, she bought this house. She went to the city and said, "Hey, I want to put 14 bedrooms in this house.
Wow.
Can I please do this?" And but it's like a single family big house. And she was like, maybe they will, maybe they won't. And they came back and said, we need this so bad, we'll let you do 15 bedrooms.
Wow.
Really? And I was like, when she told me she was going to ask the city, I was like, you sure?
Maybe
just
do it.
Forgiveness, permission. Like, didn't you already close mouth? And so I use her as an example though of kind of like how cities are starting to see it and where you can use it. We have a method that we just basically, if you were going to go into a small market and say, somewhere in the middle of Oklahoma, we would run, and like, I don't know anybody doing it there, so I don't have good data on it. We would just run test ads. We would literally be like, I'm going to create an fake ad, and I'm going to test a couple of price points. And when people respond, I'm going to be like, hey, I'm creating a waiting list. And here's a form, fill out. You'll be on the top of our waiting list. We're looking to expand in this area. So we're going to, be as authentic as we can about it, but at the same time, test a market is how I guide my students to do it. So,
what I love about that is Tim Ferriss says in the 4-Hour Workweek, don't ask if people would buy, ask them to buy. Right? Don't ask if people would buy, ask them to buy. Right. And where the fake ad, that's where it comes so handy because you're not saying, hey, how much would you pay? Yeah, how much would you pay for rent in this area? I'd pay any amount, right? People are dumb.
Right.
So if you can say like, will you buy at this price point? And they click on it and they fill out a form. Okay, well now I know that this is a real price point. That's smart.
I had someone tell me the other day, they're like, are you telling people to create fake ads? I was like, guys, like we're gonna be authentic. Like you still respond to everybody. Like still make sure you're doing this as authentic as you can. But they have to think it's they gotta think it's
have to look like an ad. It has to look like one, or else it's irrelevant. And did somebody waste 10 minutes? Maybe, but you're putting them on the waiting list. So hey, what do you know?
Put them on a waiting list.
Yep, and now we can help them at some point.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, so I asked you before the commercial break, how long did it take you to generate real income? And then I want to lead that into a conversation about what can these actually make a person? How does that work? So what did it do for you, and then what can it actually do co-living?
Yeah. It's funny that we're having this conversation. I just got back from a conference where they were like, they had this whole thing about FTC regulations and like what numbers you should share and what numbers you shouldn't share. So I was like, be really careful. So I'll say all this to say is these are, I'm going to give you some examples of homes that I have, what they do. You may or may not be able to copy this.
But your numbers.
Yeah, I mean,
we should probably take that course.
What you're going to make.
You can make millions. But
we're taking out all our videos.
Ultimately, what we're seeing a lot of is we're seeing a normal home, and I'm going to give an example for like Charlotte, North Carolina, that would rent for say $2,000 a month, and that's kind of I'm giving an average number, and we're seeing triple, or if you can really niche down and find ways to add additional bedrooms, because in this model you are adding bedrooms, you're taking dining rooms and living rooms and basements, and you're adding bedrooms, and we're seeing triple gross revenue, right? Is kind of what I would like to see as far as like a minimum. Now we have some we can quadruple. I've seen maybe one where we quintupled what would potentially be. And then your net revenue is going to be just dependent a lot on like what's your debt service, how much you're going to be paying, what are your expenses, are you paying a property management company? But we say you need to be making $1,000 a month net cash flow from a house. Like that's the minimum. That's the minimum I would say. And we're seeing higher than that. I want to be really clear. I say $1,500. We have some that do $2,000 or even $3,000 on one single family home.
And we're talking
we're talking net revenue,
pure cash flow, actual after paying all the bills, everything.
So a house that would normally like lose money.
Yep.
Maybe break even, but probably lose money. A couple $100 a month if you rented it as a single family is now turned into $1,000 a month cash flow, right? And so you have
it doesn't take many of those to be.
It doesn't take many of those, and you can get even more creative. You can do stuff like older, like assisted living homes that have kind of like lost their license, and you get super creative with those, right? But if you start to expand your mindset, when I walk into a house, I mean, every bit of space I see as an additional bedroom, right? The one thing that we're really passionate about is creating community in the homes, though. And so, like, we always keep one space for a common area. There are some companies out there, some bigger companies that'll say, "Hey, we don't even want a common space because it causes issues." some of the bigger tech companies. That's kind of
Like personal stuff.
and we're just like, hey, we actually, I mean, I lived in these homes for 13 and a half years. I want to create a community space where people can come and connect and can hang out together. And we do we have a big vision for what we're going to do on the community side in terms of what we want to provide to the members. And we're kind of slowly working into that. But you want to tell them about the manual we give everybody? That comes in?
Oh, the Thrive Journals. Yeah. So Sam and I are really big on personal development. We just finished Tony Robbins UPW. Hosted 20 people in our home for 4 days right before we got here. So yeah, we partner with a friend of ours who built a skate park in Mazunte, Mexico, right outside of Oaxaca. We go down there several times a year to visit with him. But yeah, he had this really creative Thrive Journal. And so basically it's personal development 101. Like goal setting, what are some of the questions?
Meditation,
exercise,
eating healthy.
Go through a reform. And so we give it out kind of like a business card to everybody who walks through our homes that comes through the doors. And if they complete it, they get a $200 Visa gift card if they just prove to us and say, hey, I filled this out, I went through it. And I actually, Sam and I aren't as involved with the members. We would like to do that. But I met one of the girls who completed it and at a party that we do like community events. And I had met her, and she was working for the post office, United States Post Office. And she said she had never done anything like that in her life.
Really?
And she was like this middle-aged woman renting a room from one of our houses. And it brought like tears to my eyes because I was like, we are creating so much more, than just renting the room. But
I think we take it for granted sometimes. I think that we're all in the personal development space. So it's normal to read those books and to do meditation and exercise and track your habits and do all this stuff. But the majority of the world doesn't. It blows their mind. I don't know, like my mom read some Miracle Morning recently.
Yeah.
And it was just like,
such a good book.
She's like, oh, this is like like there's so many things in there. How did I not know about that for 60 years of my life that you can do this stuff? Yeah, it's a very cool idea to give it to your tenants. I think it might
be a $100 gift card, but maybe we should.
I have this.
I guess we were saying 200, so maybe I can't remember now.
No, that's good.
That's cool.
We did have an email. Awesome. We just got an email the other day from someone that said thank you. Well, first they were like, please give me $100. I filled the book.
Yes, I
then
did.
they were like, this did help me with a gratitude practice.
I have a dream, vision, goal, whatever I want to do at some point. I've been talking about it for a few years. I just need to do it or find a who, not how to help me with it. But what I want to do is I have 10,000 actual tenants and then a bunch of self-storage, but 13,000 tenants, including that.
Incredible.
Plus, like other people have thousands of units or hundreds of units. Like if we bonded together and you do something like pay Dave Ramsey or pay Tony Robbins for an afternoon, and then you just do something like, hey, it's a live class for all of our tenants, totally free. We're covering it. If you attend though, and you fill out this simple questionnaire form or whatever, like let's say Dave Ramsey's 7 baby steps, right? Yeah. Just fill this out while we're going through the thing. Hand it in, you get $100 off your rent next month.
Yeah,
like how great would that be? One, to help them, two, help them manage their money better so they can pay rent, and then they're never doing that stuff anyway. So I want to play with that idea and just call it Financial Freedom Day or Literacy Day or something. Yeah, and just get more and more apartment owners and multifamily and single family owners all joining in on this thing. I think that'd be sick.
That's so cool.
Because what do you think your rent collection is at typically?
I don't know, 90. I have no idea. 95.
Yeah, if you take that to 97 because of that,
and it's 95.1.
Yeah, exactly.
It pays for itself. So what would Dave Ramsey? Guys like Dave would probably also, if it was like, hey, you're going to be in front of 200,000 renters in America who have never heard of you before. I don't think Dave's going to do that for free, or probably, right?
Yeah.
Like I think that would be get like Dave, get David Goggins, Jocko Willink, get some people that would like fire people up and be like, it's a 2-hour class, you get $100 off your rent if you attend.
So neat.
Love that.
Everybody would attend.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, okay, we're gonna do that.
There's so much you can do. That's kind of our vision too. Is like, hey, we want to help solve affordable housing. With community-based shared housing. And there is such a thing as non-community-based shared housing. I'll be really clear. That's a huge distinction, right? There's people who are like, there's no common spaces allowed. Every square inch is a bedroom. But if we can, and I mean, the community piece is hard. I'm not going to lie, especially at scale, right? But we're trying to give them, I think there's so many ways to give them access to education. I think you give them access to like telehealth type stuff. That would be really cool.
Yeah, we talked
just different things you could do where you could really inspire them. I mean, there's nothing more intimate to provide than someone's home. That's the most intimate place you have ever, right? So if you can add on to that, I think it's powerful. It can be powerful.
They'll never leave.
There you go. There's
love it. So I have some like just practical questions about it. So the kitchen, who stocks the kitchen? Are they bringing their own supplies or you guys?
We outfit the kitchen and the common areas.
In the common areas? So like toilet paper, that's on you guys. All of that stuff.
That's on them.
That's on them. Toilet paper is on them.
Oh, yeah. So we provide like when we first go into a home and outfit it, we provide like one care package. But then we have something called SWAT, which stands for sweep, wipe, attend, and trash. And they rotate the schedule, and whoever it is that week would buy the
supplies for that week
for the house.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Not everybody gets their own bathroom.
That's right.
Okay, so they're
Some of them
sharing a
share
bathroom,
baths,
and so cool.
Yeah. One of the reasons we're excited about, we have 4 ground up construction projects for this that we're starting.
Oh, wow.
And like the cool thing about the ground up co-living is like you can add so many more bathrooms.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can make it a 1-to-1 if you wanted.
You can make it a 1-to-1. Whereas if you're converting a single family house to co-living, maybe you're adding 1 bathroom or 2 bathrooms, but you're not giving every room a bathroom. It's just you turn this house into a weird thing that
With the ground up, are you guys giving everybody a bathroom? Or are you guys
8-6?
8-6? Okay.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
What about guy-girl things? Like, do you rent, is guy houses, girl houses, anybody? And then
Co-ed.
Co-ed. So all of them are co-ed.
Yeah.
Have you had problems with like, I don't know, the things that come with co-ed, like hooking up and all that? Like,
Problems are you talking
is there
about?
drama that happens there?
My property manager should probably be on to talk about the stories that she has. But no, it happens less than you would think if you vet correctly.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like just more personality things would probably be the challenges than like the specific guy-girl things would probably be the more
We're
common
upfront about
things.
that too. We don't. We used to have like guy housing and girl housing.
Yeah, and it just didn't work
and
with all.
now, there may even be some still that way preference, but most people don't care that much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not that
As long
big
as you
of a
keep
deal.
it safe, you got to make sure it's a safe environment.
They all have their own locks, I'm sure, on the doors, right? Do you
Yeah.
deadbolts on the bedrooms or just the doors?
Deadbolts, like a
Just regular
keypad lock.
Keypad.
Oh, okay.
On every
electronic keypad. Yeah,
every door in
Every
every
door,
room, I guess.
yeah.
And then what about like neighbors? Because I just would think like that kind of upset me if I bought a house in a nice neighborhood and then somebody else bought the house
12,
next door and
12, 23-year-olds.
Yeah, put 12, 23-year-olds and there was 12 cars parked out in front of the house.
Yeah.
How do you handle that?
Yeah. Well, we don't like neighbors.
We love our neighbors.
We love neighbors. That was just
We don't
a
like
joke.
HOA.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think you've got to think a couple things through if you're going to do co-living, right? Like, well, first, you do need to think through parking.
Yeah.
Like that, especially if you're in a city that you need to think through parking. Like Houston and Charlotte, you need to think through parking. Public transportation sucks, right?
Yeah.
But we've got one of my inner circle clients has 400 rooms in San Francisco. He doesn't give a crap.
Yeah.
Like none of his homes are parking. And most of the people that come into his homes, I think, like don't have cars, right? So I think you got to think, geographically where you're at for that. And then the thing that we say, and this is a little, I don't know how much I can talk about this, but like the thing that I say is like, you got to drive that neighborhood and you got to make sure it fits that neighborhood.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Like, if everybody's lawn is perfectly cut and it's, stay away from HOAs. Like that's just a good rule because in every HOA is like, we can do anything we want to you. And, and it's funny, I'll do these, I'll speak. When I speak live, I always ask when I get to the HOA portion, I'll be like, how many of you have ever lived in an HOA or been a part of an HOA? And a bunch of people, how many of you enjoyed the HOA? And freaking every hand in the room goes down. So I think that speaks for itself. But basically, if you think through parking, does it fit that neighborhood? You're not putting these in A neighborhoods. You mentioned a nice neighborhood. You're not even putting them in A- neighborhoods. You could do B neighborhoods, and C neighborhoods are probably best for this. And you just got to make sure like it fits. You know what I mean? Like if the neighbor's got 5 cars in his parking lot and 3 construction trucks and whatever, you can still do nicer neighborhoods, right? But it just has to kind of fit. I don't know how else to say it other than it needs to fit the neighborhood.
Cut your grass and take your trash cans from the curb to the garage. Trash
Yeah.
Just make sure your house stands out. It should be, if not one of the nicest, the nicest, if not one of the nicest houses. Really try to keep, because that will keep people at bay.
And then with like the cutting the grass, taking the trash in, and you're saying, was it SWAT or swap? SWAT.
Yeah, SWAT.
So do you guys just have that on rotation of like every week somebody's in charge of something else, or is there like house chores for every single person?
They can opt out for a fee. So they can be like, that sounds terrible. That sounds like chores when I was in college. And they're like, I want to, but okay, great. It's $50 a month or it's $40 a month. And you can opt out. We'll get a cleaner to do your week. So it's super easy. And then we do have professional cleaners come in once or twice a month as well.
Oh, that's
still
cool.
just on top of it.
Did you come up with all of this, like your playbook all by yourself? Or did you guys
Pretty
did?
much.
Yeah, a lot of it was trial and error. And
every
learning
time
from
there
a
was
few-
every time there was a mistake, Johnny ate my peanut butter. Now we have labels.
Johnny ate my peanut butter.
Johnny
problems.
ate my peanut butter. It's like, don't, instead of signs.
Everybody has.
Yes. How do you deal with food, private food?
Labels is
labels?
really great, even in the refrigerator and the freezer. And then if we have 6 bedrooms and more, we put a secondary fridge outside in the garage. So we label everything. Yeah.
Do they have their
Everybody
own
has their
shelf?
private.
Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Shelves.
When she says
Drawers,
label, she
yeah.
means like you get your
Label the
space in the
cabinet.
refrigerator,
Yeah.
you get your space in the
Yeah.
cabinet,
Yeah.
you get an assigned parking spot if parking is an issue. Like here's the parking plan, like room 3 parks here.
Yeah.
You want to be, it's nuanced, right? And that's why maybe there's not, it is, there are more systems coming down the line, especially as some of the bigger tech companies get into this space. But if you can overcome those nuances,
You can cash flow $1,000 a house, and I don't do that on 10 houses. So
Please. Wow, you might need to join us.
That's why I'm asking so many
Jump over.
questions.
And the other thing I was going to say about we used to like furnish. I love how you have a lot of inspiration. We do the same, but we used to put like cubbies in the hallway and all this, and everything just collected dust and shoes, and it just got messy. So now everything is clean, clear, clear clutter and clean free. And
the same lady that used to come in, and her name is Ala, she used to come in and do all of our Airbnbs. And when we did Airbnbs, we still have some, but we're transitioning out of those into more co-living. We like 5-star, right? Is the only way to win in the Airbnb, full on.
Luxury.
When we started fully transitioning to co-living, we said, we want you to come in and design, like actually interior design all of these co-living spaces. And so she comes in, she interior designs, and they're like, when you see the pictures of these places, you would not think co-living. You would think this is an Airbnb. It looks amazing. Like we're not furnishing the bedrooms, obviously. At least for our model, we're not. But they look amazing, right? So if you do it right and you have a really, really, really great product, then it can work.
Are you combining with midterm rentals at all? Like, are you doing traveling nurse stuff where you do have actual furniture in their bedrooms and all that, or you just stay away from that?
Tried it. Yeah,
it's not our model.
Okay, yeah.
And there's a philosophy behind that. Like, I want you to move in. So the guy from Europe, circling back around to the guy from Europe who called me and laughed at me, he was like, he said this phrase that stuck out to me. He said, Sam, the room is the new apartment.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, like I just, and we could get into a whole geopolitical talk and where the United States is heading and will inflation continue and all blah, 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 blah. I believe it will.
Yep.
And so like, if things are going to get worse before they get better, then like, I want to be positioned to solve affordable housing. And in order to do that, I want you to like, this might be what you can afford. Yeah. It's a room. And I don't want to have it like it's not short term. Like when our members, we call them members, when they come in, like we're thinking like our average tenancy is, I think it's, don't quote me on the exact number, but I think we're over 18 months on average tenancy. So it's not like they're staying for 2 weeks and bouncing. I think part of that is because they feel like this is home. This can be home.
Yeah.
That's the feel we're going for. It has some difficulties to it, but that's the feel we're going for.
I also wonder, there's probably, like because you're focused on the community, like unless you're a complete weirdo, you're gonna make friends with somebody in the house, most likely.
Yeah.
And then once you have that solid friendship, you're less likely to go leave because now you got a person. Right. Like there's studies that have been done on neighbors. Like once you have one connection with a neighbor, like your length that you stay in a house is like significantly higher. There's like I've read this study on that. Yeah. Or probably read an Instagram post about the study about that. But so I'm assuming that probably attributes as well to like longer time you're in.
I think it does. Yeah, for sure.
How involved are you guys in the management? Like, what can you walk through 200 doors is a significant portfolio. So you must have help. You've mentioned managers. How do you run that right now in your life?
Yeah, we own a property management company. We manage for some of our students. We manage for all of our portfolios.
What are some of the so will a normal property manager just take over rent by the room stuff? Co-living or not really?
Not normally, not unless you train them.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's some of what we do is like someone will bring a traditional property manager to us and be like, teach them how to do this, I'm starting to see it happen more and more around the United States where traditional property managers kind of want to start getting into the space.
Yeah.
It's not like there are nuances to managing the members.
Yeah.
But, if you had an 8-unit apartment building with 8 people in it, and it was an 8-unit apartment building, you would have 8 HVACs, 8 fridges, 8 dishwashers, 8 right? So, but from a CapEx standpoint, it's actually less because like 8 people could be sharing one house, and it's one house. You have 1 or 2 HVACs, you have 1 or 2 refrigerators. So sometimes there's less management maybe on the asset itself, but a property manager needs to learn how to handle the nuances of the tenant management stuff.
That makes sense.
There's also some big tech companies coming out that will manage it for you. Kind of like, I think this space is kind of like what Airbnb was back in 2011 or 2012. It's like the tech companies are kind of getting in. They're fighting for who's going to be the big person, and so they'll manage it. That's another option. Another option is a company like mine. There's probably a dozen companies around the United States that are like mine that are maybe managing 300 to 500 units. They don't really advertise, and nobody really knows about them unless you're like connected with them. And I know most of them, and we'll refer people to manage it like that. And then the thing is just to self-manage or to hire someone to do it and use the systems that we've have.
Yeah. Do you have like in your program, you have a course program, something, right? So do you have like, here's the playbook of how to manage these things?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So somebody just pays you, they just take it. Yeah.
100%.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Big fan of that stuff. Like,
Yeah.
that, when we wrote the book on managing rental properties, like Heather and I did back in the day, like it was just like, I just wanted to give people like, this is the playbook that how we operate ours. Yeah,
Exactly.
do this.
Yeah.
I would have no idea how to even start with.
And
what
my
we're doing,
property
so that's
manager,
awesome.
Jess, has created so much of that. And she's a lot of the training in the course. She does a lot of that training.
Yeah, there's a reason why franchises have like a 90% success rate, and then entrepreneurship, like just starting a business, has a 90% failure rate. It's like when you have the SOPs written out for you and you just follow them on a plan that's already succeeded, your chance of success is like 100-fold, right? So same thing. It's like, hey, I'm just gonna follow your plan. Like you guys already laid it out. I'm just gonna follow what you guys have done. Yeah, brilliant. All right, finding tenants. Are you just posting Craigslist ads, or what are you doing to find people?
Pretty much how we started, and still do now. Yeah.
Craigslist work, Facebook Marketplace works.
All
There's
roomies.
a ton of sites.
So many. Zillow even just started doing.
Zillow, like as of a month
room,
ago, like will allow you to post a room to Zillow.
Really?
That's
Not
just the
even
whole
like a-
house. They'll do a room.
And that's new.
Room
That
for
was brand
rent.
new for
That was-
Zillow. They used to outsource it to hot pads, and now Zillow
And
brought it
Trulia.
in-house and we'll do it on Zillow now.
That's
Roomies,
fascinating.
Roomster.
Yeah.
There's a website called Zumper. Believe it or not, that is a room rental site. Room rental site. That is what
Sounds
it is.
like it's for other things.
Craigslist still works. Facebook Marketplace is big. There's a bunch of them now. I mean, those are the ones that come to my mind off the top of my head, but yeah.
Are people doing this strategy with like arbitrage, meaning like you're not actually buying the thing, you're renting it and then re-renting it out by the room? Is that a thing?
Yeah.
And you've seen that work?
Yeah, the
or-
400 rooms that I mentioned in San Francisco are all arbitrage. He just partners with. He'll go to a landlord that has 50 empty units
Yep.
and just be
You're
like,
like,
"Hey,
I'll take 'em."
I'm gonna get more income from it anyway.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take a bigger chunk of it. I'm gonna manage it all
Yeah.
and ready to go."
Yeah,
And
you
so
don't
that
get
can
equity
work.
from it, but it's an interesting way to get cash flow pretty rapidly without having to pay a lot of money.
That's right.
Yeah, I think I would. Yeah, I've talked about Airbnb arbitrage a little bit. You're not building wealth, but if you need out of a job, like a year of hard work, and you could be financially independent.
That's right.
Maybe less if you just really poured in on that. Because there are landlords all the time that have properties that are just, I got a bunch of empty units, or this thing's causing me a headache. I don't want to deal with it.
Right.
Yeah, and you can talk them into it. Yeah, smart man.
There's even a company out there that'll do these like walls that you can. So let's just say you go out and you rent a single family house. I think it's called Juno Walls, Junno or something. They're basically walls that just like interlock, but they don't actually like. You don't have to put anything in the. You could like take a dining room and close it off with this wall. It's like a custom wall they make, and then when you're done renting the house, you just take it down and it's done.
Yeah.
So you don't have to like add the walls or the doors. Or something. Yeah. So you can get super creative about it if you want to, but yeah. It's a thing.
What are some things people got to worry about and be concerned about before they get into co-living? What are the
I would say you need to probably make sure. Yeah.
You mentioned parking.
Yeah, parking I would say is
Zoning,
one. Vetting tenants correctly.
City and zoning. We're in areas, investing in areas, and our students are that are for it. And we're even in Charlotte, they're changing ordinances now of how many unrelated people can live in a home.
Yeah, I think Maui's I think you can only have 4 or 5 here. It's like 4 unrelated people in a house.
Yeah.
So that one thing that shuts down your ability a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, this is an interesting conversation. So yes, zoning, because there are some cities that have straight up come out and been like, we're gonna fight this. Like we do not like this.
Yeah, not in our backyard.
Yeah, not in our backyard.
We need affordable housing, but not in our backyard.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, we see that all.
Homelessness is on the rise. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll give a shout out to PadSplit is probably the largest company by room count doing this in America doing co-living, and I think they just hit 10,000 rooms or 11,000 rooms, right? And they're a $100 million plus tech company, venture backed. Mark Cuban's one of their biggest investors. And, they don't do a lot of teaching necessarily, but they do a lot of they manage these properties. And when we were designing our legal strategy, we got on the phone with our head legal counsel and we're like, all right, like how are you guys doing this? Like you're doing this in all these markets around the United States. How are you not getting shut down by for unrelated? And
Don't lie to me.
I'm not a lawyer, and this is not legal advice. Right? But in essence, what he shared and what we've modeled after is, in essence, he said, look, number one, 98% of your issues will come from, he said, trash cans and grass, which is we've already addressed that. Like, is your home just as nice, if not nicer than every home in the neighborhood? He said the second thing that we do is we, in essence, like let's say LLC owns the property. Yep. It's going to lease it to another LLC, and this LLC is actually what they would call a membership-based organization. And so think fraternity club, think
Speakeasy.
another one like a country club, And so so technically I'm only leasing my house to one person.
One tenant,
Yeah, it's technically one tenant. It's a corporate rental. I'm leasing to one person, and the way that membership agreement is written is they have rights, they get all access to all these other membership benefits, and they get access to the home, right? Which is pretty cool.
Yep.
But a lot of times that allows them this strategy for how you're technically leasing your house to one person.
Yeah.
Basically is in essence how it works. And these tenants have this agreement, and a lot of times this agreement doesn't have a lease term to it. And a lot of times to get around those, it's like some of the way that the rooming house and boarding house laws are written are like, hey, it has to be a permanent resident. You can make an argument that if a member has access to a home for as long as they want, then they're not a permanent resident. I know it's nuanced, but it is a I believe, and they believe, and we've modeled after that, we have a good faith legal argument for operating in most cities, even around those rules. And though I really want to say this, and I hope, some of these zoning rules that came out, like 4 unrelated, 5 unrelated, 6 unrelated, they were designed to monitor prostitution houses and undocumented workers from all coming up in the house. And they are extremely discriminatory in a lot of cases. Like, for example, in Atlanta, here's how it reads. Up to 5, and don't quote me exactly on the numbers, but this is how it reads. Up to 5 unrelated, unlimited related, and unlimited number of domestic servants.
Oh, wow.
So they have literally, to get around some of these regulations, they have literally been like, hey, they've gone into the house and been like, hey, do you guys just mind signing this? And like, you can be a domestic servant and live in the house. Like, it's crazy how off and backwards and old and outdated some of this stuff are. And so there's a lot of momentum to change that moving forward. So that's a whole big, deep conversation we could get into, but that's a little nugget of how it's happening around the United States.
Well, tell them that you talked to their chief legal department and and you were like, how many times have you gotten kicked out or shut down? And you're like, don't lie to me. And he's like, 0.
Really?
0 times.
Well, it reminds me of, I watched a video the other day, I can't remember if it was CNBC or somewhere that was talking about when big tech, like Airbnb was an example, and then they gave Uber as both. They were both breaking law. Now, I'm not legal advice, not telling people to break the law here. But they said like those companies knew that it was good for society to have this thing. So when Uber went to New York and they were like, we're going to do Uber, people were like, you can't do that. You don't have a medallion or whatever taxi thing. And they said, yep. And they did it anyway. And then they did it, and they did it in such force that taxi companies couldn't stop them. And then when they sued them, it was expensive. And eventually the government's like, we can't do away with Uber. Now
we're all taking them.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, we're all taking them anyway. So they changed the entire law based on breaking or pushing the bounds of the law. Now, the exact same thing happened with Airbnb, and the Airbnb lost. So that's why there's no Airbnbs in New York anymore and in Vegas. And so it didn't work for Airbnb. Yeah. It did work for Uber. So there is, you could ask the question, if it's a gray area or if you're pushing the bounds, again, I'm not giving advice here, but is it better for society to have co-living? 100% yes. I don't think anybody argue unless you're just an angry Karen who's like, not in my backyard. I don't want that in my backyard.
Hasn't gone to the downtown in a long time.
Then
see how people are really living.
Exactly.
Exactly. So I'm okay with this.
I have an Airbnb on a lake in Charlotte. It's like one of the bougiest lakes in Charlotte. It's called Lake Norman. And every time we have tenants there, it's a really nice property right on the lake. Neighbor calls us.
He calls. Yeah.
Basically every week. In almost a decade and a half of doing co-living, we've maybe had 3 of those calls. These are not party. I think what you have to realize, these are not party houses. Young working professionals. Now we're getting an older segment of the population too. They need a place to live. Like they call home. They're not coming in throwing ragers. And if they do, there's no parties allowed. If they do, they get kicked out of the house. Like it's not a thing. And that's their home.
I had I don't think we've talked about this, but I had there was a co-living, I shouldn't say that, but it was close. I bought a house here in Maui that was one, I could have made it, I guess, probably 7-bedroom, 8-bedroom. Ended up being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-bedroom.
Nice.
And I was going to rent it out in 3 different chunks. So kind of co-living, but I had it in 3 different areas. It wasn't a triplex because they were all joined somewhat together.
Okay, got it.
But it was basically a triplex, but they all had doors that locked and all that. So it had separate entrances for some of them. Everything was great. And I was going to make a good amount of money on this thing. I was predicting $10K a month in revenue on a $5,000 mortgage. I'm like, this is going to be awesome. Right? Neighbor across the street gets upset. He goes and because we hired him as a contractor, then we fired him.
Oh no!
He got pissed. He complains to the department. Was it ecology? I think he complained to everybody, but to ecology, I think is the one that runs septic tanks. Said these guys have a house with 6 bedrooms on a septic tank, only approved for 3. So they came in and then they forced us to take that. They wouldn't even just like decommission a room or take out the window. They said you have to remove the bedroom entirely.
Oh my God.
So we had to tear down walls
What?
And now it's a 3-bedroom house, even though.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, completely.
We've had that exact same thing happen to that Airbnb on the short-term rental because it sleeps 22, and they're like, "There's no way this can sleep 22." They've actually been super good at it. They've come out a couple of times, and they're just like, "Your neighbor said you have sewer on the yard, on the yard," and they're like, "They look, and there's nothing." And they're like,
and because they're used to getting this call because they're
But that's crazy.
That is wild,
Yeah,
man. I'm so sorry.
He called it as his parents, so its parents filed the complaint, and I read it. It's like, these people are bringing drugs and crime into our neighborhood. And I'm like, this was the drug house that I fixed up and put 150 grand into and made it amazing. And I'm like, this guy's just a piece of crap. Anyway, so I'm selling that house like next week. I'm very excited.
Wow.
And one of my employees is actually buying it from me. So it's going to be his problem. And I actually think he may turn it back into because we're putting up the walls back in.
Send it to me.
Yeah. And he will, of 6 bedrooms up there, his mortgage will be, probably.
Is this? Where's the home?
It's in Makawao here in Hawaii. It's in Maui. So his mortgage can be, I don't know, call it 6 or 7 grand a month. But
offer.
I almost positive he can get $2 grand per bedroom if he wanted to as a co-living. Yeah. Maybe 1,500 because it's in the smaller room. If he can get back to 6 bedrooms, like he's going to print money on that property if he can do it. But it's the neighbor and the septic. And it was 50 grand to add a new septic. So that might even be just worth doing. I don't want to deal with it, but it might be worth it.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy. Well, those are some of the economics that you start to look at. You're like, wait a second, if I have 6 rooms and I have this room, it makes sense.
Yeah, it really can.
That's fun.
All right, any more questions on this before we move on?
No, it's fascinating stuff.
It is fascinating stuff.
Yeah,
unreal.
Great questions. You guys are asking. I can tell you guys are like real estate guys. Have you guys done this before?
Well, the problem is every single episode.
Now you know how I felt after 10 years of Bigger Pockets.
Yes, I'm like,
every episode.
What am I doing? Just doing a long-term rentals? Because honestly, all of our properties we buy in B neighborhoods, working class. We don't do A class because it's just they don't cash flow. Don't really do C or D just because we don't want the tenant. Like B's is we love B neighborhoods. And as you're talking, I'm like, I've got a lot of doors I could convert into this.
What's cool is you can test it 2 with one and find out what works. And you can try another one, and you build into a system.
And then you answered a question that I think was valuable to me is like every time when we rent, you have to go get a renter's permit, and then your tenant has to go and get that as well. Yeah, it's wild. It's in St. Louis. Yeah, St. Louis. Yeah, yeah. So occupancy inspection. It's terrible. Yeah. In St. Charles County you don't, but in St. Louis County you do. But if you do like that LLC membership stuff, makes sense. Do you know people doing it in St. Louis?
As you were saying that, I was trying to think. I think it's funny you say that because I think I do remember one person telling me about the occupancy. I remember it clicking as it was weird. It's like St. Louis, like is it really that?
Occupancy inspection on everything.
I'll have to get back to you on that. I don't know, like right off the top of my head, no one's popping in, but
that's wild, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, but we can talk about it. The management is nuanced. Here's the other thing that maybe people should be concerned about. Like it's very hard in co-living right now to be like, I want one in St. Louis, and then I want one here, and I want one here. Like where this model starts to make sense is where you either you build your team, and I help we help people do that. We build your management team in one area because you get economies of scale. You can start to handle the members and members. It's kind of hard, but management is the hardest piece right now. It's not putting walls. It's not even finding homes that cash flow. 95% approximately of our homes bought on the MLS. It's not like we're even getting off market deals. I was buying homes that cash flow right off the MLS, which is cool. But can you manage them? And do you have those systems in place and all the nuances, right?
There's a lot to say about economies of scale. Just having enough in one area. Because that's everything.
Another question for you. So, like, have you guys ever had a tenant that is a terrible tenant, causing fights with everybody?
No,
you have to. You've never had that. You've had to evict.
Our tenants are amazing.
But in the interim, as you're going through that process, like everybody in the house gets mad and wants to leave. Or has that happened where you've just got low vacancy because of terrible tenants?
We have evicted before. So I'll be really clear. And granted,
several times.
We're in North
Carolina. I was going to say to your point,
so
earlier, we've only in however many years you've been doing this, and I've been doing
almost a decade and a half of doing this. We probably had
6,
5
7
evictions?
That's
maybe?
amazing.
5 to 7 evictions. There's social proof. So when you put a notice on someone's door, everybody knows. So it's harder to squat. Right. It's like harder to sit and squat. Whereas a single family home, you kind of still feel like you have your privacy. Here, it's like I can walk into the common area.
Walk in anytime.
I actually have a student, one of our affiliates in Houston. The entire reason he does co-living is the craziest way he got into it. Oh my God. He bought one single family house. It was his first rental ever. And he was so excited to be a co-living, not a co-living investor, just an investor, real estate investor. And the lady rents the home from him and turns it into the local strip club.
Oh.
And he was like, anyway,
his ring was the reason why he knew this is because his camera just kept going
Oh, yeah.
radiating.
Like,
He
just all
like
these strangers
installed a
coming in.
camera, and then somebody kept saying like, I keep seeing people like coming in and out of your door, and he installed
he
a
said
ring.
all the neighborhood men just started disappearing into his own house. So anyway, finally evicts her. She like squats for 6 months. He finally evicts her. She's destroyed the house. There's stuff all over. There's poles in the middle of the and he's just like, I will never buy a single family house again. But he's like, with CoLiving, I can enter the house anytime I want and check on it. I can come so literally, like, that's the reason he does CoLiving, because he can come into the house and be in the common area anytime he wants.
All that is I never thought of that.
Yeah, all that is to say is you can evict and know. We will let the other tenants know, like, hey, we understand John's been a problem. He's been given his 30-day notice, and we're working through the eviction process or whatever.
Yeah, just the communication.
Cool.
Has helped.
Well, let's talk real quick about the program that you have. How do you help people? What's that look like? Like, talk us through that.
Yeah. We so the biggest thing we do is we do these 5-day challenges.
Okay.
And it's basically 5 days of free content. There's like a little $27 little checklist thing you can buy or whatever, but it's 5 days of content. We have one coming up. The next one's coming up, I think, the week we get back in April, first week in April. And basically I do a deep dive into how to find your house. People find the house. We run numbers on houses.
Yeah.
And then at the end of that, we have an offer, and people can join our program if they want to after that. We have a program where we just like give you all this stuff and have group coaching, and you can do that on your own. You know, if you're kind of that self-starter and you kind of get the real estate space, but you need the systems, you need the checklist, you want the membership agreements, you want all of that. And then we have a program where if you're like, hey, I want even more help than that, Sam, I'd like to use the exact same teams that you use around the United States to do it. And there we'll kind of, we'll do it with you, where we'll go in, we'll help you select the property. Like they become my personal coaching clients at that point as well.
Brilliant, man. Where do they go to learn more about this stuff?
ScaleYourRealEstate.com.
ScaleYourRealEstate.com.
Everybody gets started in the same way. They start with a 5-day challenge.
It's a great domain name.
Yeah.
It is. Do you have to buy that one? Or
the hard thing is there's 2 R's in the middle, and it always trips people up. Scale your real estate.
Yeah,
so it's like RR.
Yeah, that's funny.
That's the only bad part about it, but yeah, it's an awesome name.
That's funny, man. All right, we got to shift gears, head over to the next segment of the show. It's called the 3-2-1 pivot. This is when we're talking about pivoting, we're talking about going in one direction and then something changes. You read something, you meet somebody, you hear something, and your life pivots in a more positive direction. So let's start with 3 books. And if you want to do 3 each, that's fine. 3 books that have changed the direction of your life.
Wow.
You want to go first on that one?
Why don't you share? We could talk about probably the same ones.
Same books.
Yeah.
The same books.
Same books.
I think one of the books that made a big
it,
difference in our life was this book called Loving What Is.
Okay.
This lady's work is Byron Katie. She's kind of become a spiritual mentor and teacher to us. She also wrote a book called A Mind at Home with Itself. And she has, you want me to talk a little bit about what it is? So it's fascinating. She's got this system that she just like a way to get out of pain, mental, emotional pain. Yeah. And it's 4 questions. It's so simple. It's like you take a thought, like, I don't know, my wife shouldn't yell at me. You know, she's yelling at me. She wouldn't, and she never yells at me ever.
Exactly.
I'm Italian from Jersey. It comes out every once in a while.
And you ask, so any thought that causes you pain, you ask these 4 questions. You go, is it true? And she calls it a meditation. You meditate on it. And she has you write it down because she doesn't want you to get in your head about it. So you write it down. And then whatever your brain says, yes, it's true. My wife shouldn't yell at me. She goes, the second question is, can you know for sure, like absolute truth, that that's true? Well, I can't know for sure because then I'd be God, and my God, maybe she should. I don't know, but I feel like she shouldn't.
She is yelling at me.
And then the third question is, how do you react? You know, how do you react when you believe that thought? She shouldn't yell at me. And you're like, well, I get angry, and I get pissed, and I get upset. So that's the third question is, how do you react? And you start to get associated with how you react. And the fourth question is, who would you be if just for purposes of discussion, you just couldn't have that thought? Yeah. Well, she shouldn't yell. Well, if I couldn't have the thought that she shouldn't yell at me, I'd be more happy. I'd be a little less stressed. And she's like, and then she has this crazy thing. She's like, well, then how is it her? Yeah. Because without the thought, you're less stressed. So it's not her, it's the thought.
And is it worth,
That's awesome.
Is it worth, can you see any reason to continue to hold that belief?
Yeah, she's like, is there any stress-free reason to keep that thought?
Is there any stress-free reason?
And you're like, no, there's no stress-free reason.
That gives you that, your brain
Her work is
option.
Brilliant.
And she wasn't even planning. She was an ordinary woman. She went through a halfway house and had her own dip, low in life. And depression. She didn't even, depression. And she didn't even plan to get into this work. And and she's become a really beautiful mentor for us.
Super cool.
And then the
Yeah.
final part of that
Yeah.
is the final part after you ask the 4 questions is you turn it around. So she has you come up with 3 statements that are literally the complete opposite of the first statement.
Yeah.
And you sit with those and you basically say, how is the opposite just as true, if not more true? So like, okay, my wife shouldn't yell at me. So you literally go like, my wife should yell at me. And you're just like, you meditate on it. Like, well, I was an asshole. You know? Maybe she should.
Yell at me.
Maybe she should yell at me because she's going through something and she needs to get that out. So therefore she should. And it starts to like, for lack of a better word, it kind of F's with your brain.
Yeah.
Your brain's holding onto this thing, making you so mad and so angry. And I've done it a lot around like, I should be more successful. Like that's the one that comes up for me. Like, I should be more successful. Is that true? Yes.
Yeah.
Can you know that it's true? No, I can't know for sure. Yeah. So you're already starting to, how do you react when you go through life believing the thought you should be more successful? I get stressed. I treat people meanly. I don't know if that's a word. Unkindly. I'm not fun to be around. Who would you be without the thought? Like if you just woke up one day and you couldn't have the thought, I should be more successful than I am right now. Well, gosh, I would be a hell of a lot less stressed. Turn it around. What's the opposite?
Yeah.
I should be less successful. Like you can actually play with weird opposites. Like less successful, kind of should be like, who am I to deserve all this? And you start to play with it, and then cool, and then as you're going through life, that thought pops up, and then the opposite pops up because you've been meditating on it. And you're like, your brain kind of short circuits, and you don't have that emotional pain. I think Tony Robbins says it best. He says that all pain comes from a lie.
Yeah,
and if you really deep into that, she's basically uncovering what that lie is, and going into that. So I know that we've really done a lot of her work, and it's helped us.
That's great. It's amazing.
Be okay with yelling at each other.
All right, book number 2.
What would be another one?
Why don't you talk about The Untethered Soul? I think that's been huge.
Oh, I love it.
Michael Singer. Mickey Singer. Yeah. His work is incredible, and just, he has a chapter on death, and then the one about like getting outside of your comfort zone, but going to the edge, like where the dog, with the invisible fence, and then one day breaks through, kind of talking about the fear, that energy and fear we have. So his work has been really incredible. And what's been another?
What's the third one for us?
Well, you talk a lot on the challenge about, and in the course with the mastermind about Think and Grow Rich, and just that mindset.
Yeah,
the mindset of the wealthy.
Yeah, cool.
Having a magnificent obsession.
Yes.
Yeah,
You're obsessed about something. It might as
well. You guys read his other book called Outwitting the Devil?
I have it, and I read the first couple chapters. Never finished it. But
you can't read that one. You've got to listen to it on Audible.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because on Audible, it's this conversation with the devil.
Somebody acted out.
Yeah. The devil's like, oh, he's like, it's really Diablo kind of voice. It's real deep. That book is amazing. Right. He basically tricks the devil. He goes in, he makes a deal with the devil. He says, you have to tell me the truth for like an hour. Or no, it's longer than an hour. Maybe it's a day. He's like, I forget what he gives the devil, but he gives the devil something, and the devil has to tell him the truth. And so he just basically sits down with the devil, and he's like, tell me how you deceive men. Tell me how you make so many men fail. And women, obviously. Tell me how you do that. And the devil's like, I'm not going to tell you. He's like, but you made a deal. And the devil's like, fine, I'll tell you. Here's how I do it. This is a really cool story.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I'll pick it up again. I got it in my house.
That's
cool.
Audible. Get it to Audible.
Okay, so Audible. You're right. Audible.
All right. So who are 2 pivot people? 2 people that you've met that have changed the direction of your life?
You can't say each other.
That is not fair.
It's definitely been, for sure.
Who's someone in your world that's been a pivot for you?
I could say you.
Cheating.
Today. We haven't met him, but I would say the work of Tony Robbins.
Okay.
I just had a really low in my life, talked about mental health and earlier on before the recording in a family history of mental health. And I bypassed 30-something years of my life, my adult life. And then wham, depression came and it just kind of imploded and, was fearful that we would lose our connection and our love, and checked myself into an outpatient therapy program. And I would just say I've never been more, it's never been more affirmed and confirmed the work that Tony Robbins has done around psychology and just the layman terms that he uses. He makes it so simple, like a 3rd grade, 5th grade level. And for common folk, ordinary, to just go and take part in his events and his seminars. And we host them now in our house for people and open up our homes. Awesome. And if you haven't had the chance to do it in person, and also just with a therapy program, I would say his work and the experiential therapy. It's not just the talk therapy, but it's like physiology and state, right? Getting in your body and making those moves and making those neural pathways and changing the association. So I would say his work. We've not had the privilege to meet him or his wife, Sage, but really impacted.
But you will.
Yeah.
I'm sure
Yeah.
Someday.
And I live with the Tony Robbins of
when you get him on
motion.
the podcast.
When you get him on the podcast.
We're done. Come on now.
When he
We're
does
gonna be camera
that
people
philanthropist
that
work, he comes and talks to all our thousands and thousands of members and tenants.
Oh yeah, add him to Dave Ramsey.
Oh yeah, Dave Ramsey, Tony Robbins, he would totally do it. They would all do it because they're giving
would.
back to thousands of people who need it. So let's just make that happen. We're gonna make it happen. All right, we're gonna manifest right now. All right. What about you?
Pivot person? Meeting probably my martial arts instructor.
Oh yeah.
I had a bunch of martial arts instructors in my career that were kind of just pivotal for me. But I would say my first one was a guy named Master David Clements, and he just had a belief in me as a 15-year-old that was insane. Just like, you can do it, and like nobody, my parents had that belief in me too. So they were beautiful in that way, but. There's just a lot of power when someone's like, you can do it, and just like backs that up with action. He was the one who sold me to school at 15 years old. So
it's cool he believed in you so much too. Like that's got to be just such a rocket ship on a
felt amazing.
young person.
Yeah. It made me want to step up to be, that person.
All right. What about a quote that has changed the direction of your life?
Go.
Wow. The one I thought about actually was going to be, I can do hard things. What I thought about. And recently, wisdom, it's a Bible verse. I don't know exactly where it is, but I think it's in 1 Peter. Wisdom will be known by her good deeds. I just love that. I mean, it's just so it's humbling. Maybe at this stage of my life, just the Proverbs 31 woman, a woman will be known, by her good deeds and the work that she does and the contribution that we make. And so I think that's been a beautiful mantra, if you will, for me in this time of my life.
I thought you might ask this question. So mine I wrote down just like not one of the ones that I'm trying to live right now is don't take life too seriously because you're not going to get it alive anyway.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to live that because I just have this tendency to try to micromanage everything.
Sam.
Serious. My friends used to call me Serious Sam growing up. So I'd say that one for me.
That's awesome. I struggle with that too. I need to remember. Like, we're not getting out alive. So, yeah.
So we're going to move over into past, present, future. So past you, present you, future you. And so a question for both of you. So if you could go back and talk to 20-year-old you, what advice would you give them?
Wow, I love this question. Yeah, just we do it, you do it. Everything will be okay.
Yeah.
And another verse, just well done. Well done. Be faithful, continue to be faithful, continue to believe in yourself. I think that's something as a young girl, maybe struggling with that belief in myself and not having those models around me and the parental figures that did and have to seek outside, like maybe you did and just have to seek that, and then just, give that belief, borrow the belief of others that they had in me. I think it's a Hal Elrod quote. Talks about borrow the faith that others have in you until you can bring it about to yourself. Yeah.
I love that.
20-year-old self?
20-year-old self.
Advice? Yeah, probably just have more fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
I don't know. It's
hard now.
It's hard because it's hard to give your 20-year-old self advice. I feel like because I feel like I don't have I am so grateful for every piece of my journey, even all the ways that I messed up. So I'm like I would hate to take back the lessons that I did get from messing up, but I get the question. That's a great question.
It's designed obviously for people who are in the beginning of their journey. Like, what advice would you give to that person? So even if it's not yourself, like. Because all of us, we would not be here without the pain
those mistakes.
and those
That makes
mistakes.
sense.
So if we went back and told ourselves, who knows what the butterfly effect would have done, and we'd be very different people.
Right.
Probably worse off.
Yeah.
But what would we say to our kid, or that kind of thing?
Gotcha. That makes sense. That qualifies it for me.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Number 2 of this section. What is your, if you had to state a rule for living a better life or a great life, what would that rule be? Like if you had to put it on a billboard, what's your rule for living a better life right now?
Yeah, maybe we could take it together.
Okay.
You have something.
I was just going to say something we've been trying to implement in our life is just having a lot more trust in our future. I feel like for us, let me speak for myself on this one. Like still, I do these things with Byron Katie and Tony Robbins, right? To just kind of open my mind up to recognizing that I feel like there's so many things I like to control in life. I don't know, God made me like just a high, I would consider myself a high control kind of guy. You know, I want everything to be a certain way. I want every staff member to answer exactly as I want them to answer and I want them to text me back at every hour of the day.
Yep.
But ultimately, like just recognizing that if I look back at every beautiful thing that's happened in my life, it did not happen because I orchestrated it. And I know that sounds crazy to say because we're all like, make it happen.
Yeah.
We're all designers and architects in this room, right? But if I look back at like how I met her or how I got into co-living, it was just this weird, like this had to happen, and this and this and this. And it was a million factors that all came together. And so if I can then translate that towards the future and say, okay, like it's not going to be how I thought it's going to be. You know, even getting out of the martial arts business. Like I thought I was going to be in the martial arts business for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
But all these things came together, and you know, so we're trying to just build more faith and more trust, so when things come by, we can take them less seriously in a good way, more lightheartedly would probably be a better way of saying that. You know?
That's great, man. I love it.
So,
all right,
love it. All right, last question on this section, and it's one of my favorite questions. And I'm going to ask it individually and then as a couple. So the first question would be like, what do you want people to say about you when you die, like in your legacy? But then as a couple, what do you want people to say about you guys as a couple?
Wow.
I like that.
Yeah, I love that. Something we've been talking about recently is, you know, the people in our life that we really look to. It's like, what drives you, you know, and we're at a point in our life where we've reached a level of financial freedom that we no longer have to work. And so now it's like mission, you know, and how can we really solve this affordable housing? And how can we really be passionate about members coming into our space and being influenced by the things that have really impacted our life? And I think for us, our legacy, I'll just say it, is our love. I really want that to be, for me, is known by my fruit, known by my love, and that those who come after me will say, well done, you know, that I was faithful, you know, during the process for those that will come after me and behind me.
I love that. It's amazing.
Yeah. Could you say the question one more time?
What do you want?
What do you want
your legacy to be? Legacy to be?
No, that was good. That was good. I worked on this a lot earlier on,
Yeah.
maybe in my early 20s. I worked on like, what is it going to be? What is it going to be? What's my mission statement? What's my mission statement? And I came up with something that I usually say, and it's, you know, I want to give generously, love unconditionally. I want to live simply. It used to be live outrageously, and then we changed it to live simply. And I want to inspire others to be, do, and have, and enjoy more than they ever thought possible in their lives. That's always been kind of my little mission statement on what I want to be known for and what I feel like the reason I'm here.
It was so good. I adopted it.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that.
We do that together. Yeah.
You know, we did do the
We're working on the simply part.
love unconditionally and give generously.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right, y'all, let's wrap things up.
Yeah.
First question, what are you excited about? What's coming up in your life right now that you're just pumped about?
Kind of to piggyback off what she just said, one of the things we've been talking about is starting a department in our company, our property management company, called the Department of Member Love, where we do some of the things that we've kind of been like just spitballing here in this thing of like we bring people in and we actually go in and video them and tell their stories and give to them and like do like mini Mr. Beast type things for our members. So that's something we're like playing with. It's ideation phase right now, but something we're really excited about.
Awesome.
What are you excited about?
Yeah, same.
Yeah. She's going to be the head department. Hospitality is her thing. This girl can throw a party. Like,
yeah, learning more, I think, just in this time of our life and my life is, you know, just becoming more acceptance of my nature. And it's a lot of nurturing and hospitality. And how can we use that in our business? You know, my seat has changed a lot of times, you know.
Yeah.
But how can we use that? How can I soar with those strengths? And
the longest time, Rachel felt like she had to be me.
yeah,
I'm a hard driver, fast,
High
go. And so just now we're
Yeah.
starting our relationship, something we're like more excited about. Not to take over from you. It's like she can be her.
Yeah.
And it works. And we get to crush it together.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Same team.
same team.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. And then where can people find you at? ScaleYourRealEstate.com,
Yeah.
right?
If they're interested in
Yes.
co-living, that'd be
Yep.
you
Yeah.
can give them a waiting list for the next challenge there.
Love it. And then what about like Instagram, TikToks, Facebooks, all that stuff? Where can they find you?
TikTok.
TikToks.
For Instagram at Rachel _Wegert, Weegert.
at Sam Wegert for me. Yeah,
Love it.
WEGERT. That's probably the best place to come follow us.
And then we have YouTube channel out there plugged in. We lived in a camper van for a couple of months,
That's
and we did a camper van series and documented our
Love
journey and some house renovations we have on there as well, and some of the co-living, and short-term rentals. Yeah,
You guys are
fun
gonna do a
with that.
TV show? Have you guys tried?
I'd like to.
I
We'd
was gonna say
like
you
to,
guys
yeah.
look like you should do a TV
Yeah.
show. You'd both be perfect at it. All right.
We're gonna do the
Appreciate
Better
it.
Life TV show.
The Better Life TV show, the Better Life TV network. It's coming soon.
Yes.
Thank you
Love
guys.
it.
This has
Thank
been amazing.
you.
Appreciate y'all.
Thank you. Wonderful time.
Four-way.
Yes.
Boom.
Boom.